Organized crime has played a major role in some of the investigative and forensic techniques used by law enforcement today, resulting in some very scary people who were on the loose finally being caught. But these gangs have had a profound effect on their communities, and many organized crime families still do today. Number 5. Roger Toohey was one of 5 brothers that were involved in organized crime. James Toohey Jr., John Toohey, Joe Toohey, and Tommy Toohey all lived a life of crime, but by far the most notorious and well-known was Roger, who, together with Matt Kolb, owned 10 illegal beer and liquor breweries near Chicago during the Prohibition era. Toohey stayed out of prison by bribing judges, police, and prosecutors, often adding some of his bootlegged alcohol to the payments. He was also well known in his community for donating beer to fundraising events and for buying ice cream for hundreds of children every Sunday. But in the early 1300s, kidnapping had become a lucrative part of organized crime, as it was considered safer than bank robbery. In June of 1933, Jack Pfeiffer, a gangster and casino owner from Minnesota, persuaded the Barker Karpus gang to kidnap William Ham Jr., the president of Ham's Brewing Company. They were told that he would be ransomed for $100,000, but in truth, Pfeiffer aimed to pin the crime on Toohey in order to eliminate him. On the 15th of June, 1933, they executed their plan, and Ham was kidnapped as he walked home from the brewery. The Ham family paid the $100,000 ransom, and he was released on the 19th of June. But investigators were certain that Toohey's gang was responsible, and falsely claimed that he had kidnapped people in Kansas City, Denver, St. Paul, and Minneapolis, and that he was part of a kidnapping ring that operated throughout the Midwest. And on the 12th of August, Toohey and his 4 fellow gangsters were charged with kidnapping, among other crimes, and eventually sentenced to 199 years in prison. In October of 1942, Toohey escaped from the Stateville Penitentiary near Joliet, Illinois, but was caught again 12 weeks later. In 1959, however, federal courts found that the kidnapping was a hoax, and he was released after spending 25 years in jail. Number 4. Al Brady began his life of organized crime in partnership with Clarence Lee Schaefer Jr., James Dallover, and Charles Geisking. Together, the gang committed robberies and stole vehicles across Indiana, focusing mostly on department stores. During one of the robberies, they ended the life of a 23-year-old store clerk, and on another occasion, killed Richard Rivers, an Indianapolis police officer. In 1936, all 4 men were captured, but Brady, Schaefer, and Dallover managed to escape. The following year, they decided to move their operations to Baltimore, then to Connecticut, and eventually Bangor in Maine. Using the $5,000 they had accumulated from their robberies, they believed that they would be able to purchase large quantities of firearms, and they approached Dacken's sporting goods store on the 27th of September. While Brady was purchasing rounds for his weapon, the owner of the store noticed that one of the men was carrying a large roll of bills, and he became suspicious. After taking their order for the weapons that they were looking to buy, he told them to wait a few weeks as it would take time for him to acquire them. After the 3 men left, he contacted the police, who decided to lay in wait. 15 FBI agents and 15 Indiana state troopers positioned themselves on rooftops and in windows at Market Square, and FBI agent Walter Walsh posed as a clerk at the sporting goods store. On the 12th of October, 1937, the gang returned to the store after first driving past twice to make sure that it was safe. They parked their black Buick a few doors away from the store, and Schaefer, along with Dallover, got out, leaving Brady in the vehicle. Schaefer acted as a guard at the store's entrance, while Dallover entered alone, and he was arrested after a brief struggle. Schaefer saw what was happening and drew his weapon, firing into the store. Agents inside the store returned fire, and Schaefer ran out into the street where he lost his life. Agents then approached the car where Brady was watching, and he was ordered to step out with his hands up. He told them not to shoot and that he would cooperate, but as soon as he reached the door, he lunged out with his weapon drawn and started firing wildly at agents. They returned fire, and Brady was gunned down instantly. One agent later noted that he had bullet holes through his clothing and his holster, narrowly avoiding being hit by Brady. Dallover was taken back to Indiana and convicted of the crimes that he had been a part of. He received the death penalty and, despite an appeal, was executed on the 18th of November, 1938. Number 3. The Dixie Mafia was also known as the Cornbread Cosa Nostra, since they emerged in the 1960s from the American South. The group had no official hierarchy, employed scary people from all ethnic groups, and were willing to participate in any illegal activity that they considered to be profitable. Starting out in Biloxi, Mississippi, their operations soon branched out as far as Atlanta, Georgia, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. At first, they focused on crimes such as burglary, robbery, and theft. But before long, they were involved in professional hits, often against former members. On the 18th of February, 1969, at least 5 members of the gang traveled to the Skibo Trailer Court, where a group of traveling carnival employees were staying after setting up their camp. Most of the carnival workers were at the Mardi Gras in the French Quarter of New Orleans at the time, where they were working at concession stands. But 24 others stayed behind at the camp, and the Dixie Mafia, donning masks and firearms, ambushed the site. They used chains and padlocks to restrain their victims while they ransacked the 10 trailers belonging to the carnival, searching for money, jewelry, and anything of value. By the time they were done, they had collected about $12,000, though it's speculated that it may have been more, as the carnival workers possibly underreported theft to avoid getting in trouble for tax evasion. Margie George, a fortune teller, was accosted in her trailer and asked to reveal the location of the group's safe. When she refused, they decided to end her life, and a known associate of the gang, named Gary Elbert McDaniel, would be found deceased a month later. Police suspected that the gang had ended his life, but it's also speculated that he may have been killed by McNairy County Sheriff Buford Pusser, who was rumored to have been responsible for the deaths of 3 Dixie Mafia members in retaliation for his wife's murder. One of the gang's thieves, Bobby Gwynn, was arrested shortly after the incident, and he quickly implicated the Dixie Mafia kingpin Kirk C. Nix Jr., Bill Clubb, and 3 other members. When Clubb was arrested just 2 days later, police found $9,000 in his possession. Police then raided his house and they found an array of burglary tools, as well as an assortment of weapons, some of which were traced back to a robbery that took place at a house in Ormond Beach in Florida. He was ordered to be extradited back to Louisiana, and shortly before his scheduled transfer, Gwen was found deceased by the side of the road. This caused the case against Clubb to fall apart, and he continued on with his training as a pilot to run illegal substances throughout the southern states. On the 5th of June, 1982, however, his Piper Cherokee plane experienced difficulties and crashed outside of Houston, ending his life at 55 years old. Number 2. Gangster Charles Arthur Floyd, also known as Pretty Boy Floyd, was seen as somewhat of a Robin Hood by the public, as he supposedly regularly destroyed mortgage papers while carrying out bank robberies. He was also known to share the money from his crimes with those around him. On the morning of the 17th of June, Frank Nash, a friend of Floyd's, was scheduled for transport to a prison in Leavenworth, Kansas. Floyd, along with Vernon Miller and Adam Ricchetti, devised a plan to free their friend, and as he was brought out, opened fire on officials who were guarding him. The resulting battle caused Nash to be caught in the crossfire, and he lost his life. 2 officers, an FBI agent and a police chief, also succumbed in the firefight. Floyd, however, managed to escape, and after the infamous John Dillinger was caught and killed, he became public enemy number 1. A $20,000 bounty was offered for his capture, dead or alive, for the next year. He remained on the loose, going into hiding with Ricchetti and 2 women, while using the alias George Sanders. Police received a tip-off of their whereabouts, and Ricchetti was captured, but Floyd managed to escape. He was later tracked to a cornfield in East Liverpool, where he decided to fire at officers who returned fire and brought him down. His last words were, "I'm done for, you've hit me twice." An ambulance was called, but he passed away 15 minutes later. Number 1. Legs Diamond was not well regarded by his fellow gangsters, as he was known to have never made a friend that he didn't double-cross. He began with his own bootlegging operation by hijacking trucks that were transporting alcohol in order to stock his own speakeasies. After spending time in prison for desertion during World War I, he started working for a gangster, Arnold Rothstein, who's known for fixing the 1919 World Series. He also did freelance work as a hitman and bodyguard for Jacob Organ, and when Organ was officially gunned down in October of 1927, Diamond was wounded. He then started his own operation and quickly became the target of fellow gangsters who attempted to take his life and wounded him twice more. But they quickly found out that Diamond was not an easy target. Rival gangster Dutch Schultz was once heard asking his own henchman, "Ain't there nobody who can shoot this guy so he doesn't bounce back?" On the 12th of October, 1930, Diamond was staying at the Hotel Monticello in Manhattan when 2 men forced their way into his room and fired at him, hitting him 5 times. He then drank 2 shots of whiskey before making his way out of the room and collapsing in the hallway. He was taken to a nearby hospital where he recovered. On the 27th of April, 1931, he was having a meal at the Saratoga Inn, a roadhouse near Cairo in New York. After finishing his meal, he walked outside where he was fired upon once again and hit 3 times. A local resident drove him to a hospital in Albany, where he once again made a full recovery. Then on the 18th of December, 1931, he was staying at a house in Albany while on trial in Troy for kidnapping. He'd been acquitted earlier that day, and after celebrating at a restaurant, he returned to his room at about 4:30 a.m. An hour later, as he lay on his bed, 2 men entered his room and fired at him, hitting him twice, and at last his life was ended. His funeral was attended by around 200 people, but not surprisingly, not a single member of any criminal operation was in attendance. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.